Thank you very much to be here in this side event again. Um, so I think we already had a fair bit of discussion on the investments that are coming through. And I think the stage has already been set. So I had a few slides on those, but I'm going to skip those for the sake of time. So I'll restrict my talking points to, of course, give you some background on Bangladesh. So some of you who are not familiar with our initiatives, what we have done so far, I'm going to give you some background on how did we start this FSM journey and how we are planning to scale this up, what sort of challenges we faced, and what sort of options do we have to make all of this sustainable. Now, we are currently, according to the Joint Monitoring Program, we are currently at the level of 31% safely managed sanitation. And we are positioned in one of the countries which, according to the GLASS report, one of the countries which needs acceleration at a rapid scale. Now, how to accelerate that framework is already given by the SDG 6 Global Acceleration Framework. It basically says that we have to work on 5 fronts: capacity development, innovation, governance, financing, data, and information. Now, if we try to translate all of these into the sanitation business, we can get specific recommendations for each of those, but I'll come back to that later. The way we started our FSM journey, it was back in 2006, where the Asian Development Bank has undertaken what is called the Secondary Towns Water Supply Sanitation Sector Project. 14 fecal sludge treatment plants were constructed, mostly reed bed systems and various other systems. This was just the first experience of Bangladesh in small towns with a fecal sludge treatment plant. At that point, we actually didn't quite know what the fecal sludge management service chain, value chain actually meant, and a lot of things were actually unknown. But NGOs and INGOs played a very instrumental role through action research and demonstration of the value chain. And that was in 2011, there was a joint pilot by WaterAid and Practical Action. We got our first ever co-composting plant constructed by WaterAid, which was commissioned in 2014. And then we first saw how fecal sludge and solid waste can be combined to prepare co-compost and generate some sort of value out of the fecal sludge service chain. Then all the NGOs and INGOs, they started work very vigorously and through research, demonstration, and also some capacity building efforts. But then it got the government, we successfully did the advocacy. And the government actually has then found the appetite to and its willingness to actually invest in some of these programs. So I think the NGOs played a very crucial role in Bangladesh during the period of 2006 to 2014, 14-15, and then government has kind of started to think about that this can be a potential solution for the fecal sludge management problem. But as Uttam already mentioned, that although we installed a few FSTPs, there were some challenges where some municipalities have been running the FSTPs successfully with the help of NGOs and their efforts, but some other municipalities, they were struggling because there were other things that they thought that they would happen automatically, but it didn't. For example, stopping of illegal connections to the drains. Not all households are accessible to fecal sludge management service. And there is lack of capacity and political will at the local level. And these things were not very much because initially they thought that install an FSTP, it will run automatically, but that doesn't happen. So these were the learnings. And we see, although FSTP is constructed, they remain abundant. Some municipalities thought that it competed with other services like the priorities, water, road construction, or drainage construction, or solid waste management. That's a priority. Financial aspects were not exactly considered. Whether or not we can generate some value from it, that was not considered. Whether or not the municipality organogram had an institutional capacity to handle an FSTP. That was not considered. And maybe there were delayed investments, and we could not use the sludge for any useful purpose. This was a outcome of the study that we did in Bangladesh in 3 municipalities. These 3 municipalities have been running FSTP for a very, very long time. But still, you see, they are running at most, I mean, the sludge vehicles are running almost 50% of their capacity, and the FSTP is running at only 1/4 of their capacity. And these are very matured municipalities, have been running FSTPs for a very long time, has NGO support. Despite that, it seems like they have not reached the full potential. And if you can trace back the reasons, is because of the poor demand. The municipality has not been successfully create the demand for fecal sludge management, even after such a long period of operation. Now, in the Bangladesh government in 2017 had then issued this institutional and regulatory framework for FSM. It's a document, basically, for the first time, it says that the roles of the sanitation stakeholders, like the local government institutions and the utilities, what sort of role do they have in the fecal sludge management chain, starting from collection, transportation, treatment to end-use disposal? Who does what? And this was first delineated in this document, and consequently, the National Action Plan was promulgated, which basically says that what do you have to do to achieve SDG 6.2, safely managed sanitation, by 2030, what sort of steps you need to do and the investments you need to make. That was kind of a rough calculation was done in these documents. Inspired by this document, so the country has the government has now taken massive fecal sludge management programs. We started with, so this is kind of the current operational and total set of FSTPs that we have right now. But by 2030, we'll have 100 plus FSTPs according to the government investment portfolio. And that is what Uttam has actually mentioned, that if these investments are all now lined up, we now foresee that by 2030, the construction will be complete. But after the construction, what is going to happen? So this is already mentioned that we are making almost $1.5 billion investments. In the meantime, around 2016, the approach of sanitation, how we look at sanitation, that has also changed. We have forgone the way of traditional way of looking at sanitation to a more inclusive sanitation approach. So sanitation approach is no longer construction of infrastructure. It's also, you have to provide equitable services. You have to consider the entire value chain. There has to be innovative technology. Resource recovery has to be considered, innovation, proper financing. Above all, you also have to focus on the leadership of the municipality. Overall, this is called the citywide inclusive sanitation approach. And this was an approach that was developed by BMGF and the development banks. And what they are actually saying, that you have to have some outcomes of equity, safety, sustainability, which has to be achieved through responsibility, accountability, and good resource planning and management. So sanitation cannot be seen as an infrastructure-only approach. Sanitation is now a combination of services, and those services all have to work very nicely and all together so that we can achieve these outcomes. Now, this framework has been adopted, although we now know that in different small cities, some part-by-part activities of this CYS approach are already going on. For example, in Faridpur, with the help of practical action, they've shown how the fecal sludge service value chain can be done with the formation of sweepers cooperatives, which we already discussed in earlier sessions. In Jhinayda, with the help of SNV Netherlands, we have seen the operation of public toilets, data systems. And so these examples are already there, but these are only 2 cities. We need to implement the examples of these 2 cities, the successful to replicate it to all the 140 cities. That's the objective, and how to do that. There were also service delivery models available. In Faridpur, we see, I'm not going to go deep into it, but just to show that municipality can earn revenue in different ways. They can contract the vacuum tag directly. They can own the vacuum tag and rent it out. as there is done in Kushtia and also in Rangpur. There are different revenue generation models, different service models that has been tried and tested, and in some places more than others, it has seemed to somewhat work. So these good examples are already there. Another thing, as a result of the institutional regulatory framework, that was the document that I mentioned, the government has formed a special cell, what they call the CWISE FSM support cell within the ministry. This separate cell basically guides the investments of sanitation within all organs of the ministry. So it does the advocacy within the government. It provides the support to implementing the FSM. So all these projects are now being channeled through this cell. And what this cell basically does, it just ensures that all the CWISE principles and the CWISE equity outcome, etc., these are all now aligned. All the investments are now aligned with the CWISE framework. So if we look at the CWISE ecosystem, we have the government stakeholders, the local government institutions at the top. We have the financial institutions providing us the money. We have a technical assistance hub, which provides technical us consultancy support, the Municipal Association of Bangladesh. We also have FSM network, civil society partners, the implementing partners who have created these wonderful examples, and ITN-BUET as the capacity building partner. So there are some government initiatives centrally done which has actually helping them to guide these investments. One of them is the National Sanitation Dashboard, which basically contains data of their solid waste and fecal sludge management, how it is going in each of the Purushabhas. Bangladesh has also constructed these sheet flow diagrams for at least 77 cities, which is available in the Suzana website. And these sheet flow diagrams are serving as vital information for doing feasibility for all these cities. So you want to invest on a city. Which city are you going to choose? You choose the city which has the worst scenario, needs some improvement. You look them up from the list, and you select your programs. And the application of IMIS has also been done. I think SNV can talk more about it, but this is also currently being piloted so that you can do this fecal sludge management in a more accountable way, so with the municipality. Now, I'm just going to give an example how projects are now currently being designed. So the 10 Towns Lives and Livelihood project, it includes 10 towns. It's an investment project which is currently ongoing. So when they are designing the projects through the CWISE FSM support cell and the planning wing of the DPHE, they are now considering that what activities we are going to do in the equity aspect, what activities we are going to do in the safety aspect and the sustainability aspect. And they allocate budget line items has been allocated for each of these activities, so that these are ensured. This is how the CWISE framework is now being implemented or being channelized through these development projects. So whatever project they now design, they will have these components has to be ensured. What aspects will they go? For example, in equity, you have to take care of the low-income communities, what sort of services they will have, safety as well as sustainability, development of business models, and these things has to be now ensured within the project. This was not done in the previous FSM FSTP project. This is kind of the first CWISE project that we are going to have, and we're waiting to see what's this sort of mechanism, this sort of investment will result in. So CWISE framework is now adopted in all investments. Our objective is to see the role of DPHE gradually reduce and the role of municipality increase, because at the end of the day, the municipality is the one that is going to run the FSTPs and all the fecal sludge management services. So we have to capacitate the municipality. We have to make them own this thing and develop sustainability mechanism within them. So how they are planning to do that in the 10 Towns project is that the FSM Service Enterprise or Association of Informal Association of Workers that's going to be developed. They're going to purchase the vacutugs and will hand it down to the PTM tiers and entrepreneurs. They will work on the institutional arrangement, capacity building, development of business models, and they'll go into a tripartite agreement. So the way they are going to do it is in the first year, they're going to, DPHE is going to spend the money on the pre-term tiers, try to do the capacity building, the training, all the support will be provided for the DPHE for the first year. In the second year, DPHE will expect that the municipality will start the earning from the Purosabhas, give them, so they're only going to give the technical support, and hopefully that the entrepreneurs can earn the revenue so they will try different business models and see which one works. They will teach them on contract management, capacity building, community awareness. All of these things will go side by side. This is kind of the current mode of execution, and they're planning to they're trying to do a mix and match to see which one would be appropriate. Whether or not 1 year is sufficient or not, that's difficult to say right now. Maybe they need more time, but this is something that they are now going to exercise. In the capacity building program, we have previously people thought that capacity building was like, training, one-off training where you go, bring some people, teach them FSM, and then let them go. But we have identified that capacity building is required for various levels. The capacity building is required for decision makers, implementers, those who are working in the ground, the entrepreneurs, the private party who are engaged in, even the NGOs implementers, they also need capacity building. So we have a list of individuals we have identified a list of individuals and designed separate programs for each of them, may it be for the ministry officials or the engineers, town planners, or going down from the consultants on even the sanitation workers. They need capacity, and different modules have been developed. This is where ITN-BUET comes in. I'm not going to mention the different modules, but this just to show you that different packages are now available for the 10 towns LLF project, which they can readily use for capacity building, starting from the ministry officials all the way down to the sanitation workers. That's it. So how can we actually maximize the benefits for the SDG 6.2 acceleration? This is kind of the last slide in a sense. So we have to do capacity development. Capacity building is building on operation and maintenance, business model, sustainability of services, and building up local entrepreneurs. That should get priority. We should use innovative technology wherever it's possible, start doing the reuse and disposal so that we can generate some sort of value out of fecal sludge and solid waste management. We have to adopt a data-driven decision-making tool, because decision-making cannot be done arbitrarily. It has to be supported by data. And that data collection, information systems development for better monitoring, that has to be there. The financing has to be there because we optimize available financing, but we also have to to try innovative business model as well. So there is scope of innovation there. Above all, we have to engage the local leaders, make SDG 6.2 their own business. That's very important because they cannot be left out and think that we're actually serving some other unconnected thing. This whole thing is kind of depends on the capacity of the local leaders who will make this sanitation their own thing. So just to summarize, this is the last slide. We have seen that FSM infrastructures can become non-functioning if sustainability issues are not addressed during planning. You cannot expect the FSTP infrastructure to automatically become sustainable. It has to be thought about from the very beginning and during the planning stage. We have experimented with various business models in different municipalities, but which one works for which municipality, it has to be context specific. Something that has worked for this municipality might not work for the other one. We have to do a mix and match and find out which one works. But the bottom line is there has to be a business model which will create the incentive to keep this running. And we have to adopt the CWISE framework for the investments, because that is how you can get the maximum benefit out of it, because that's the way you have good outcomes on equity indicators, you have good outcomes on safety, sustainability. Those need to be ensured. The LGI's leadership that we're talking about the municipality and the willingness to tackle the sanitation challenge is going to be very, very crucial. And I underscore this importance. So thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer any questions. We have some time for Q&A, right?
One question. There is about private sector investment. So what do you think? Do you think private sector investment is very much important in order to make it sustainable?
Private sector engagement is very much required. But thing is, in Bangladesh, there are not many private sectors entrepreneurs develop. So you have to develop the entrepreneurs first. So get people to start a sanitation business which they would be able to run. That sensitization is required from the very beginning. And I think DPHE will spend the first year in trying to engage or encourage people to come into the sanitation business, showing that, with the hope that this is going to be profitable. We need more businessmen who would take on this role.
And just bringing this so that if anyone is online, they can also hear the discussion. So.
Thank you, Dr. Tanvir. I'm just as a relatively newcomer to the sanitation space here, so I've got 2 points that I was curious about. I see that you mentioned DPHEs eventually will be slowly phasing out with more handover of the operational role. So where do you see DPHE then? Will they be stepping into the regulatory role, or is there someone else that's going to be earmarked to sort of doing the regulatory process?
That's an interesting question. Regulatory process is still under development. I'm not sure that even at the municipality level, the regulatory activities will be done in the first phase. The big utilities will be the target for the regulatory mechanism in the first phase, I think. But there is scope for DPHE to become a regulator. The way currently it is set up, it is possible that DPHE can become a regulator only for the municipalities, but not for others. So we have to understand the role of DPHE. DPHE is not a service providing agency. DPHE is a technical agency. They will do the construction for you, give you handholding support, develop your capacity, teach you a few things on how to run this thing, but then they're going to go away and transfer this asset to the municipality. And then the municipality has to run it in the long run. So whatever technical support, other things, that is DPHE is going to provide. That's the way the sanitation institutional framework is set up in Bangladesh. So, but there is possibility and there is scope that DPHE can become a regulator for the municipalities.
Thank you. I had to pop out for a second, so you may have answered this question in your slides, but it's related to the Mentimeter question that we had about the role of development banks. So do you think that development banks are going forwards, having learned what's been learned in Bangladesh in the last 20 years, do you think development banks are particularly well suited to supporting certain points along the sanitation value chain and not others? I'm particularly thinking of treatment, which is CapEx heavy, which development banks traditionally are better suited to supporting. So do you see them as having more of a role funding treatment rather than emptying and transport services going forwards?
Well, the development banks have already, if you know that in 2016, with BMGF, along with the development banks, they have come to an agreement that for sanitation investments, they are going to adopt the CWISE framework. So, and this is not a BMGF thing. This is a development bank initiative. So wherever, not in Bangladesh also, but also in any LMIC or anywhere, any development bank is undertaking any sanitation investment, it has to follow the CWISE framework. And that's their internal arrangement. And if we see CWISE projects being developed by development banks, it will look like that. So it will have equity component. It will also have the transportation and other things component. They'll do the infrastructure, but they'll also have a big obligation that the whole system is accountable and responsible. And that points out to having big capacity building components inside it. This was in previous sanitation investment projects, this was like kind of a, offshoot thing. I mean, you develop the infrastructure, maybe 1 or 2 training and then done. But this mode of operation of investment says that it cannot happen in that way. You have to have strong capacity building components in all the FSM along every aspects of the FSM value chain. Even what are you going to do with the sludge? Are you going to reuse it, generate value? Are you going to use a business model? They have stake in everything now because of this CWISE framework adoption.
I just wanted to know about the regulation itself, because today we were talking about the soft components actually. So I think one of the way to make our FSM more sustainable is actually having a good regulations and a good awareness generation, because you were also saying that most of the FSTPs which has already been constructed doesn't get a sufficient load actually.
So
Yeah. So is there already a regulation in place actually at the local level or at the country level also, which ensures that, okay, this should be done like this? If not, what can happen? That's for the entire value chain I'm asking.
Thank you for the question. Yes, there are regulations at the local level, regulations in the Act, but the Act also gives the privilege to the municipalities to develop their own bylaws and regulations if they require, just very similar to India. So we have seen Poroshobhas develop those bylaws and regulations for themselves, customized for their Poroshobha, and apply those. For example, Kushtia, Jhinaidha, I think so, but they developed regulations. And with the IMIS system, it becomes easy to kind of monitor some of these. So they have the authority to do it. What we are advocating through this project, that all the Poroshobhas develop their own regulations, like connection to the drain and septic tank, proper construction of septic tank. These should also be in the regulation. They have all the authority to do it. What DPHE is going to help them is create a template for that regulation, that this is how a regulation looks like, and you adopt it to your local context. This is how a contract looks like with the VacuTag operator. We're giving you a generic contract. Now you apply to your case, so that you, these things are coming. And the CWISE FSM support cell along with DPHE, they are kind of advocating some of these. Okay. So no more questions. Thank you very much.